guys, welcome back to another video. We are joined today by Kevin, who is one of the coolest petrolheads you could ever hope to meet or to be. We are with his amazing collection of cars, and what I was going to say was it's really interesting. The more esoteric someone's car collection is, the more you know how legitimately a petrolhead they are. So the people who have, you know, Aventadors and all the kind of new fancy stuff, it's more of a kind of for show thing. But when you've got stuff like this, like you've clearly owned a lot of cars and you know what you like, so that's going to be quite interesting to get into.
Okay.
So tell us about this one, Kev.
Okay, so this is a Lister Bell replica. First question, real one? No. It's a Lister Bell replica of the Lancia Stratos. And these guys know how to build a car that's not going to kill you. Mm-hmm. This is the unique selling point. Right, so it actually does handles predictably. Actually, it's really nice.
And how much power did they put out?
It's somewhere north of 200.
Fine, but it weighs...
It weighs 900 kilos.
There you go.
Right,
Fine.
So basically it's got a short wheelbase. So it's like an Elise. You know the original Elise? Mm-hmm. It's like that, but with more power, you know, with a better engine.
Fine.
So that's how I look at it. Because
the wheelbase is quite short.
The wheelbase is tiny, so it is actually the footprint is the same as an Elite, and the short wheelbase is part of the reason why it was a good rally car.
Yeah, it's so nifty.
It's very agile, but if you don't really want it to be that agile, if you just go to the shops.
Yes, exactly.
You know, so it's controllable. So they did a brilliant job of engineering a Lancia Stratos that works today, and it does work today. Mm-hmm.
And does it have ABS, traction, any of that, or is it just a...
It's got... No.
So it's literally you are attached to the machine.
It's an old school type of engineering.
And so you said it had an Alfa engine?
An Alfa Romeo engine. If you want to undo the
clamp
there.
There we go.
And then this just lifts up.
So what configuration is that? Is that a straight six?
Yes. Oh no, I think it's a V6.
Is it a
V6? Yeah, it's just the intakes look as though it's a straight. No, it's a V6.
And it's transverse mounted like the Miura?
Like the Miura, and like the Dino engine.
Yes.
That was in these originally. I saw an interview of Gandini, Marcello Gandini, when he was talking about the designs of these cars, you know, in his history and these things, and he didn't want the Dino engine in the Stratos because he thought it was too heavy and didn't produce enough power, right? And actually, I thought, right, okay, he does actually know. Because if you ever, you know, a Ferrari Dino, or a Dino Ferrari, you know, the 246.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Fabulous looking thing, piss slow.
So slow.
Piss slow. I mean, it's just horrible.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're revving the tits off it, it goes nowhere. Mm-hmm. And that gets really tiring.
Yeah.
So actually, I think if he'd have had this sort of thing, I mean, it's an Italian engine, if he'd had this sort of thing in the Stratos, he'd be much happier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because actually you're producing much more power, it's lighter, and it's, yeah.
Well, I guess it's similar to what Kevin at Motor Technique does with his sort of Dino, what are they called, like Evos or whatever he does, where he puts in, I think it's like a 328 V8 or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And they go like the clappers.
Yeah, they will
absolutely
do. It needs a decent power plant.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's a pretty car, but it needs a decent power plant.
Absolutely.
And this originally had the same power plant. Sounds fantastic, but you know, it was just wear you out.
Absolutely.
Trying to make progress in the thing. Yeah.
Nice. Should we have a look at the Miura?
Yeah.
Should we shut this?
Let's shut this down. Just rest it, and I'll come round and.
Cool. How long have you had this for?
When did I buy this? I think I've had it for 6 years.
Okay. And you were saying this is also Gandini?
Gandini design.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
SV spec as well?
No, it was upgraded to SV.
Oh, was it? Fine.
Yeah. So basically, this I bought from Joe's as well.
Fine.
But I bought it as, it's not really a project car, but it was a car that you could build on. You know, it's a base to build on.
Sure.
For something else.
And so what were the upgrades to bring it up to SV spec?
What the upgrades are, the main upgrade is the track, the widened track for the rear, because the early cars, I've spoken about it before. It's called bump steer, and actually it is horrific bump steer.
Really?
You know, so you go over a bump, and the thing will just spear off into spear off on, in one direction or another. You don't know which. That's the nice part. And you know, so it's just not it's just not confidence inspiring.
Fine.
But then with the later cars, because basically it was, they were really prototyping every day.
Well, this was kind of a backroom project, wasn't it?
And they were prototyping.
Yeah.
They were trying to do something that nobody else had done. Nobody told them it was impossible. So, that's a fantastic situation to be in when people don't know it's supposed to be impossible.
Yeah.
To engineer a whole new type of car.
Because this was really the first road car with the rear mid-mounted engine, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we'll do this one as well.
And it just set the framework for everything that came afterwards, didn't it?
So it's the same thing. So this is now a
cool.
transverse mounted V12.
Yeah.
Remarkably clean in there. I must have cleaned it
very
before,
nice.
before I put it away. Thank God. But no, so transverse V12. The other thing that we changed, and it isn't actually an SV spec, is to separate the gearbox and the sump for the engine oil.
Fine.
So effectively, the early cars were like the Mini. They had shared gearbox and engine oil.
Okay, fine.
Which is probably a compromise too far. So basically, you separate those two out. So it has different
viscosities.
Different viscosities, different oils, and you've got different amounts of particulates building up when you
Yeah,
use it.
of course.
So it's that uprated brakes.
Which, I mean, to be fair, any car of this era really needs, doesn't it?
Well, to be honest, it's still not going to win any awards.
Really?
No. But it has got uprated brakes. But I didn't ask for it to be badged an SV. So this was managed by Valentino Balboni. He's the famous test driver for Lamborghini. And he basically, he parts out the work to all of these guys who are ex-factory.
Fine.
But they set up businesses. It's the Italian way.
Oh, so sorry, just so I'm clear, Mr. Balboni actually managed the upgrading of this vehicle?
Yes.
That's really cool.
And he's a brilliant guy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He's a fabulous guy. He's lovely. But I don't want to work for him.
Yeah.
Because I think he might be tough.
I can imagine, yeah.
But he's basically knows what it should look like, and it better look like that.
That's wicked.
In terms of what it and in terms of what it does. So basically, he's the one who managed the upgrades. I mean, the bodywork's fabulous. I mean, it really did go down to. We went. Nicola and I went out to Bologna about 2 years into the restoration. This was about 3 to do this. 2 years into restoration, I said, "Can I see my car?" And they got hold of this trolley with all these bits on it, and they just rolled it in and said, "There you go."
That's amazing.
Shit, really?
And they did the interior at the same time, right?
Yes.
Because to me, that's actually kind of one of the best bits about this car is how nicely it's like keyed together with the spec.
Yeah.
All the red detailing is just
but that's because the thing is though, Dylan, we didn't try to return this car to its original configuration. We basically, because it was actually a really horrible yellow over a really horrible powder blue when it came out of the factory.
It was a yellow exterior with a
yellow
blue
exterior. In fact,
interior.
we saw the paint when it was being repainted.
Wow.
But I mean, it was just horrific. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, it's carte blanche. It's not a matching numbers engine, right? Matching numbers. There's a special place in hell for whoever came up with that bloody matching numbers crap. But basically, then it's a really healthy engine. It's a really healthy gearbox. And we basically do what the hell we like with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm not bothered about, either I think there are collectors and there are users. And if you're a collector, then all you're concerned about is originality and whether the bolts are the right type and this, that and the other. Or if you're using them, I actually want to know they're torqued up properly.
Yeah, exactly, they work.
and they're not going to shear on them.
Yeah.
So basically, so I saw that we looked at interiors. I saw that there was an interior like this on the internet. There was a picture of a car that had this. I thought that looked great. It's going to work really well with the exterior. This is actually a Ferrari colour. Is it? It's Ferrari. It's the period of the 328.
And so it's Corsa?
Yeah, it's a Rosso Corsa for a 328.
Okay.
There were 2 owners in Italy.
Yeah.
Then it went to Sweden. The guy in Sweden had it for the longest time, but he painted it red. It had a cream interior, and we could have redone it with cream, but we decided to go with a more usable dark colours.
I think the black's really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, despite the fact that I look 6'5" on camera, I'm actually about 5'9", and I've always found that I really struggle to get comfortable in terms of actually being able to reach the pedals and the steering wheel. So have you set this up to where you need it to be?
No, actually. There's one change that we make, and it's quite a common change. You can see it through here. It's got a fillet behind the steering boss. So basically, that then puts it in a much better position for people with normal proportions, and it makes a huge difference for when you're driving.
No, I can imagine. Yeah,
huge difference.
Stunning.
But yeah, so and Valentino badged it SV. It went out as an S and it came back at an SV. I was expecting, you know. I quite like my little chrome Miura S badge, but that's gone. That's gone into a parts bin somewhere.
Valentino made the decision.
Valentino made the decision, and you don't argue with him.
No.
Right.
Do you know what's so interesting about him is so obviously he had that Gallardo, the rear-wheel drive one that you could get in the manual.
Yeah, the Balboni.
And so they didn't do that well originally, but they've now come good. So they're starting to be worth quite a lot of money if you can find, particularly a manual version.
Yes.
Which is really good because, I mean, shock, Valentino Balboni designed the best Gallardo for a driver. I mean, who'd have thought?
But do you know what the thing is? When we went out to Bologna to talk about the build, it's okay.
Got it.
To talk about the build, there was actually a Gallardo Balboni in there, and I thought that was his, and it's not.
Well, they didn't give him one.
They didn't give him one.
How ridiculous
They
is
named the
that?
bloody car after him, and they didn't give him one.
After he worked for them for what, 50 years?
Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah, you're scungy bastard.
Yeah.
Give him a bloody car. But he's got one now.
Good.
So at least he told me a couple of months ago that he'd got one.
Good for him.
But no, and you know something? It's a fabulous thing to drive. It's fabulous. As long as you drive what's in front of you, don't drive your expectations. Just drive what's in front of you, and just understand what it's doing, what it likes doing, what it doesn't like doing, and then just go with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And it's just fabulous. I mean, it's powerful. I use this all the time.
And the one thing is, I mean, this is, there is nobody that will disagree with the statement, one of the prettiest cars ever made, with the most arresting road presence you can imagine. I mean, you could take this thing anywhere, and even people who aren't into cars will look at it and go, that is extraordinary.
it's just a beautiful thing, and I think it needs to be out and about. I mean, I get excited when I see other people drive their cars. I expect them to return the compliment. And
the silver skirts are stunning as well. That was a really nice choice.
Yeah. Well, you can, if you're doing a build, you always have things. It doesn't matter if it's a bathroom or a car. You've still got to choose the scheme.
Yeah, of course.
I was really torn whether to go gold.
I think you made the right call.
Or the side skirt. But the way I worked it was, if I change the spec now, it had already been forever getting this thing restored. I'm not going to give them an excuse to bounce it down the road for another 2 months or something. So I thought, well, if I get fed up of that, at least you can do. That's a fairly easy change to make down the line. But as it is, I'm completely happy with how it looks.
Stunning thing.
And how it runs now.
How many miles have you put on it?
Oh God, I don't know, a couple thousand, 2,000, 3,000, something like that.
That's really cool to get.
But it is actually, my wife calls it, and Joe Macari calls it, a 45-minute car.
Yeah.
Right. That's a 45-minute car.
Yes, I can see where you're going with that.
So a 45-minute car. When we drove this for the first time we did a long run in it, we drove up to Yorkshire. So it's about a 3.5 hour thing. By the time my missus just fell out of the car and into the bar. She was just completely destroyed by it. And actually, we did try touring Italy in this. We took it over to Italy last year.
Yeah.
And we were going to drive from Bologna from Bologna to the lakes, and we did, but it wasn't much fun.
Because the air conditioning is not particularly good.
There's no air conditioning in it.
Yeah.
There's no air conditioning because you don't want to stress the cooling system too much.
Yeah.
Right. It was struggling as it was because it was hot. But it's noisy, hot, aggressive environment, and yeah, it's
quite a mechanical drive, isn't it?
so the best thing, and in fact, what we used it for the rest of the time we were there, is for short trips. You know, go to the shops,
nipping around,
go to the gym,
go to the beach.
down to the beach.
Yeah,
you know, it works absolutely brilliantly for that. But it is, I personally don't have too much of a trouble with it, with driving it for a long period. But it is quite.
You've got to prepare yourself.
You've got to be fairly hardcore to want to do that. It's way better just to, you know, just for short trips here and there, and then you get the full sense of it. Because these are basically espresso cars. Right, they're espressos. You don't want to be drinking espressos for 4 hours.
Yeah, indeed.
Right, you can do it for a bit, but then
quick sharp shot. And, then
it wakes you up. Yeah, then put it down and go onto the water.
Yeah,
yeah. But no, brilliant car.
Awesome car. So you gave us a little rundown on this guy.
Yes.
The old 930.
There's the 930, the flat nose, known as Asbo locally.
Because it's nice and quiet, I imagine.
It's not exactly, it's not an ironic name. No, this is my folly. So basically, I'm so many thousands into this.
Yeah.
Not an original flat nose. I bought it in 2007. I did have a chance to like cut and run quit while I was ahead.
Yeah.
When it needed an engine rebuild.
Fine.
But
that could have been the exit
That could have
point.
been the end. I decided not for it to be the end because I actually love this car.
Yeah.
If I was going to design a car, either my perfect sports car, this is close on what it is. Right. Looks great. Right. I can go into multi-story car parks. I go over speed bumps. There's not a problem. It's quite narrow. It looks chunky, but it's actually very narrow.
It's got a very small footprint, really.
It is. It is. The old 911s are just lovely, and engineered. This was from a time when Porsche was an engineering company.
Yes.
Not a cash machine. So they basically over-engineered everything.
Yeah.
So it's not even particularly light. Right. So this is about somewhere between 1,200 and 1,300 kilos.
Which
for a car that size, that's quite chunky.
That's pretty chunky, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite chunky.
But I mean, this is an era when carbon composites and stuff like that weren't really in use.
No, you could, and you leave Singer to come up with the carbon body.
Yeah, exactly.
The carbon body for it. I mean, actually, I'm really so happy with the way this has turned out, which has now had the full restoration. So everything has been done, and actually, it's from a garage just down the road from here. It's a company called Auto Umbau, and they basically did it from start to finish. This car now is.
How long did that period take?
I think it went over 2 years.
Okay. Because it's only come back relatively recently, hasn't it?
It came back earlier this year.
Fine.
Actually, we took this to France, so we went to France for a month. And we took this car. Perfect. And it had just come out from its restoration.
And so, what's this like on long runs?
Oh, this is absolutely fine.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, this is absolutely fine. I mean, this is not a 45-minute. You can drive for hours in this.
Yeah.
But it's the things like it's got the later turbocharger, it's called a K27, which is much more progressive than the original turbo.
Because that really was just a switch before, wasn't it?
The switch is not a cool thing. If you drive an original 930, as I did years and years ago, you think, God, this is a bit shit, right? Because it's got a binary turbo, it's got epic turbo lag, and it's floaty. The suspension really wasn't up to it, and you think, God, that's never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
But actually, when I looked at this car, which I bought a long time ago, somebody had already done that. So I didn't put the K27 on, somebody else did.
Oh, I see.
I didn't put the Öhlins on this.
So that was my next question, it's got Öhlins on it.
Somebody else did. And it transformed the car. I mean, 30 metres down the road, I was sold.
I'm in, yeah.
I've got to have this car. So, bless them, whoever, they got me onto Restomodding.
Yeah, fine.
If I hadn't done this, I wouldn't have done that.
And I suppose actually that would have opened the door to doing something like that too.
And it's just the way I look at it. There are some cars that stick with us, and others I'll move on after a time. 512BB, right?
How
I had
did you
that for a
find
while, right? And honestly, it coalesced in I don't like cars with a high centre of gravity.
Fine.
And the
Was it a
BB
BB or BBI?
No, it's BB.
Fine.
So it's a carburettor car.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's got a huge lump. And it felt like the centre of gravity was somewhere with the base of my skull.
That's very high.
And that's just too high. You could feel it moving around.
Yeah.
You know, not a big corner.
No.
Right? But you could feel it moving around. And I thought, I can't be having this. Right?
They look cool, but like I've heard people say that about the driving.
They're just too much weight, too high up.
Whereas this, everything is so low slung.
This is really...
It's pretty much all below waist height.
It's all below your waistline. No, great little thing.
Always love these. Always absolutely love these.
And you know, the way I look at it is if we're keeping them now, I mean, I don't worry about it because the kids are going to put them into auction when I'm not here.
Yeah.
So what do I care about
Yeah.
it? And it's just win for them. They're not going to worry about it.
But you know what's so funny is how some cars just inexplicably get under your skin. And you could drive more than one 930 and not all of them would be fun, but you just find that one that clicks.
Yeah.
It's so funny how it works.
You're quite right, Dylan. You just got, you know, it's a personal thing. You know, like, you may not like traction control and ABS, but somebody else might think, I've got to have traction control and ABS, I'm not happy. Fine. Both, there is no right and wrong. They're both are legitimate. This doesn't have any power assistance on the, there's no...
Oh, really? So it's just direct steering?
Direct steering, no power assistance on the brakes, no ABS, obviously.
Yeah.
So basically, you just have to recalibrate when you get in it. That when you hit the brakes, you hit them hard.
Yeah. And how does that affect the pedal feel? Does just having no assistance give you more or less? More. Or does it not really affect it? Fine.
It gives you more. I mean, you can really feel it. It's the same on the 50. Right? There's
Is that
no
unassisted braking as
assistance
well?
on the brakes there either.
Fine.
So basically, it feels like, you know, when you first get in it, you think, oh shit. Are we
going to slow down at some point?
You press the brake and you think, no, not much is happening now. But that's because you're not pressing hard enough.
Yeah, you've got to really stamp on it.
Because you've got to really compress the hydraulics. So once you get that, and then you can really feel and modulate. Yeah. It's lovely.
So what I didn't realise, and this is just because I've had a look at that, is when the F1 guys are driving, they actually load up the pedal with their own body weight.
Yes, they do.
They'll kick it on like that, and then once the car starts decelerating, they throw themselves into the pedal. Yeah. Because that's unassisted as well. Yes. And they need massive. They pull 5 Gs in braking. So they're actually just using their entire body weight to stop you.
It is the only thing. There's only ever been one thing on my bucket list, which was to drive an F1 car.
I was hoping you'd gone to this.
Yeah. So in fact, I've now driven one twice, because I did it in 2017 as my bucket list item.
Yeah. And what car was that?
That was a Williams FW33. It's a 2011 car. The
Fine.
blown diffuser.
Okay, V8 blown diffuser.
The V8 blown diffuser, and they sound fabulous, by the way.
They sound so great.
Right. And I drove one then, and I didn't have anything to replace it with, so I thought, well, I'll do it again. So I drove an F1 car again. It was the same car.
Oh, cool.
The same car, even the same circuit. It was Barcelona.
Oh, fine. That's a great circuit to be on.
It's great. Especially
that sweeping turn 3 or whatever
They've removed the last chicane as well. So basically, it's a real test.
So you've got to go on the new layout?
The new layout.
That's awesome. Because it's so much quicker with that.
It's about a month after the F1 guys get there. But no, do you know, the really interesting thing is that it's very, because they're monitoring you from pits.
Yes.
And the
telemetry is obviously
always
incredible.
tell you you're not pressing the brake hard enough. Right? They always say this thing, and they so if you're really pushing, you get 40 psi. Yeah. The F1 guys are doing 80. Wow. Right? And they're only little. Yeah. They're only little, and it has to be because of this, because their seat actually fits. So basically, I was sat in Pastor Maldonado's seat, and I managed to squeeze myself in. He said, "Can you make yourself any smaller?" and the answer is no. My arse is this actual size, right? I mean, any more, I'm going to be, being injection molded into the thing. And the thing is, though, that it's because I think Pastor Maldonado must have a physique of a 9-year-old or something, but it's basically hard. But once you get in, I did manage to squeeze myself into this damn thing. But you unless you've moved the pedals
Yeah, because they're
to move the
before you
pedal
go,
box
yeah.
backwards and forwards. Unless you've moved the pedals, you even then you can't. You really do, as you say, need to bring it to
load
you.
it with your body weight.
You load it with the body weight, and then you let the braking push you into the brake.
Yes, exactly. But then how much play have you got with your harnesses and stuff? I mean, not loads,
none.
but I'm assuming a little
None.
bit for you to actually...
None, they can't breathe. They basically will strap you in so that you can't breathe. And and it sort of reads on to the F50 because, you know, that this was meant to be an F1 car for the road.
Yeah.
And my original original conclusion on that was that's a load of rubbish. It's got nothing. You wouldn't even want to drive an F1 car on the road.
Well, look at the MG Project One.
If you ever driven one, they're bloody horrible to drive on the road. So they only really make sense when you're driving with your hair on fire.
Yeah.
Because nothing works properly until you're driving it fast.
Does it? So right. So let's go on to the main sort of course.
It's horrific, isn't it?
That was life-changing.